All right, we are live. It is Wednesday. It's 4:30. It is office hours here on the ViaMonstra Academy. Shall we?
We shall.
We shall. All right. Welcome back after this incredible intro. This is the office hours where you can ask questions on pretty much anything related to MDT, Intune, ConfigMgr, Windows, infrastructure, and we also share about 15-ish minutes every week on updates in these areas since, well, the previous week. Hey, Andrew, how are things?
Oh, not too bad. We got a little break in the cold weather today, and so I'm always happy for that. It's, of course, Wednesday, so we're halfway through the work week, and I'm also very thankful for that. How about you?
I, I concur with the previous presenter.
Yes, I believe that you have similar weather, so you're not too upset about the mid 60s.
Nope, I am
today.
not. I'm not. So, what happened in our little sphere?
Oh, a little of this, a little of that. So this week I had really a couple of just interesting, useful tweets that I came across. I know you've got a couple of major pieces of news to share that came out over the last week, but I had a few tweets that I wanted to share that had some useful information, and then I've got a little demo I'm going to show based on a question from last week, if you don't mind sharing my screen.
I was just about to ask about that. So let's see. Andrew says here.
There we go. If we can share his screen, we'll get him to stop babbling. All right. So the first thing that I came across, a tweet from Nathan McNulty, that the Entra team had published a bunch of customizable communications for things like MFA, SSPR, Hello for Business. There is a link to the templates here in his tweet. This is really useful, especially for those of you. I know normally we're talking about systems management and things like that, but we somehow end up stepping in identity and things like that fairly regularly, I would say. So for those of you that are rolling out MFA or trying to increase usage of MFA, Azure SSPR, things like that, these templates can really help from a communication perspective, because that's really one of the biggest challenges, communicating that you're going to be making really in-your-face changes to the way that people authenticate, as well as making sure that they actually understand some of the options they have available to them with MFA, for example, and just making sure they follow through with registration and things like that. So really useful stuff here. This is a great foundation to get started with that communication out to your users. Yeah, it's good, great stuff. I love when we've got something like this to actually base off of. We don't have to create it from scratch. No need to reinvent the wheel. Another one that I came across here the other day that sort of really helped me understand SQL joins, and really the tweet, the way that it made it into my feed was because it is also related to KQL, which we're going to use for things like log analytics. We use a subset of KQL for CM pivot. So what this original tweet was about the difference between an inner join in a SQL query, a left outer join, a right outer join, and a full outer join. I'm by no means a SQL query expert, nor am I a KQL query expert. I know enough to be dangerous and make my way around to get the information I need usually. But so joins have sort of, I'm not great with them. But they're very useful thing that you can do with queries. And this graphic here really shows how you can gather information from two different tables and put them together in the output of your SQL or KQL query. I thought this was very useful.
If only there was a way to learn more about SQL.
Topical.
Topical.
I did hear that you've got a little something coming up here soon.
Yeah, in about 2 weeks' time, we start our SQL Essentials for ConfigMgr admins. A course that I wish existed like 20 years ago. But
Same here.
everyone needs to be a little bit of a DBA these days. Not necessarily for daily operations, but for troubleshooting purposes and sometimes just to poke around and find things. So I'm very, very happy to announce that one.
Absolutely. And it looks like I might want to pop in for at least Module 3
You're welcome.
to brush up on my joins.
I'll give you a discount. How about that?
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. What else?
So let's see. The last thing that I came across, again, a tweet from Yannick Reinhard, updated the list of remediations in a GitHub repository. So there's several people from the community coming together and sharing remediations in this GitHub repository. It's open for others to also, if you have remediations that you want to share, you can create a pull request and add them in here as well. But there was some good stuff that was added in here, changing registry keys, for example, Windows Hello for Business remediations. So these were just some new additions to, as you can see, a fairly large repository of remediations that are available. Again, community coming together and posting a repository like this is just an absolutely awesome thing to see.
That is nice.
And I would imagine if you are doing any systems management with Intune or even using remediations with co-managed devices, you'll probably find something in here that will be useful for you to implement. So that's kind of the news, the tips and things that I came across over the last week. And I mentioned that last week we had a question from Akosh on, and Akosh, I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. Please feel free to correct me if I'm not. But had a great question around, he was sharing, trying to share a folder on an Azure AD join machine, I believe. And so we really only had Azure AD users or groups available to manage share permissions. And I did a little bit of research on this, and unfortunately, what I came up with was, fortunately, unfortunately, there's a little good, a little bad. It looks like it is doable with Azure AD users, individual user objects. The challenge is doing it with Azure AD groups. And when I say challenge, I mean I have not come across a way to do it at all. So the couple of solutions that I did find for
Go back to your screen again.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The couple of solutions that I did find in order to manage with manage share permissions for just an Azure AD user or users. The first one, which you aren't going to do at scale, but it is possible, you can simply, so I've got a couple of VMs here. I'll set this up here real quick. I have two VMs here, one Windows 10, one Windows 11. That's really sort of irrelevant for the demo, but they are two different VMs with two different users logged in. I believe on this one, I am logged in as Mace Windu, who of course has upgraded his computer to Windows 11. And on Windows 10, I am logged in as Leia Organa. On these two devices, I have a folder. I have share 1. And if we go to the properties of this shared folder, we can see I already have it shared out. And when I go and look at the who has access, you can already see the Azure AD / Mace Windu is there by default. And I also have Leia Organa there. So if I go over to Leia's PC, I can simply browse to that share. Make sure I typed that in correctly, like so. You can see there's a shared file in there, and over here is the shared file. So that works just like a normal share. However, if I go over to share 2, I do not have this shared with Mace Windu. So if I were to attempt to browse to it, I'm going to get, you cannot access the share, of course. So the first way to do this is the easy, like I said, not scalable way. You do, you go here, you add, you go to the properties of the share, you add a user, and you're going to do Azure AD / the UPN of the user. So I'm going to go ahead and just add Mace Windu. I'm going to give read permissions to that shared folder. And let's go in here. You can see I have another shared file. How clever. And if we browse to that directory, that shared folder, we can see that we actually have access. Now, if we want to do this somewhat at scale, then I actually came across a post from our friend Mike Terrell, who happened to go through this process a little over 4 years ago, back in 2019. I dug up this blog post. So thank you, Mike, if you happen to see this. But if we scroll down here, Mike comes across some of the same challenges that that we might see. So, for example, you can't use the Azure AD / UPN that we just used in that sort of that simple share dialog box. If you try to do advanced sharing, it's not going to find, Windows is not going to find that user object because it's just trying to look on the local computer. But down here, using the built-in grant SMB share access PowerShell commandlet, we can do exactly what we just did to share that folder, but with this commandlet. So I haven't tested this myself yet because I was just going through this a little bit ago, but of course you could take this commandlet and in lieu of an Azure AD group, because as I mentioned, we can't use those, you could feed a list of users to this commandlet and share the directory out. So I hope that helps. If anybody else has any other experience with this, sharing folders using only Azure AD principles, Entra ID, excuse me, please share. Because this is all I've come up with so far. And of course, I think even at the top of this blog post from 4 years ago, Mike talks about before someone starts leaving angry comments below saying just use OneDrive for business, I'm all in favor of this approach. But there are still use cases for this, and I still agree 4 years on. So I hope this is helpful, at least a little bit. I did try a few things like, converting object ID of a group to a SID. That didn't do anything. So really, from my findings so far, it's just been we can do that with users.
All right. I can assure you from known sources that Mike is probably not watching right now because he's trying to hunt down an older BIOS version for an M80.
Yes. Well, I'll have to pass along my thanks the next time you speak with him.
I'll tell that Andrew says thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. Anything more on your side there?
Nope, that's all I had for this week.
Well, that was not just. There was a whole shebang of things. All right.
a whole demo.
Let me see. Let me go here and here. And first of all, I stumbled across, well, I should probably say hi and thank you for the folks that did a shout out in the chat recently and said hi and thank you and welcome or good evening. They are Matt, that is usually joining us from the US, is over in Europe this week, which is extra impressive because it's close to midnight right there, or there now. So good to see you. And you got a basically a standing ovation for your pronunciation there of the name that I am not there saying. So good job.
All right, awesome.
But Adam, the automator, that was the BIOS version. That was not the link I wanted to share at all. But here, boom. End of an era. Microsoft is officially deprecating VBScript and will be removed from future versions of Windows down the road. Right now, even in the latest 23H2 that is not yet released, it is available as a feature on demand, so you can install it. That was our savior to fix the 80K, as you might remember from last week. But if you go to this post here, you'll learn that it's not just VBScript. There are a good chunk of other features that are being removed from Windows or being deprecated and then removed from Windows. So we'll share that link, of course, but it was a major update there in the deprecated list.
I have to ask, did they ever ask you if they could deprecate VBScript or WordPad?
I was not involved in that decision at all.
I didn't think so.
No, I happen to like them still. Like PowerShell better as a scripting engine, but it doesn't mean that. It has a special place in my heart over the years, so worked a lot with it. Microsoft released ConfigMgr 2309 for early adopters, and that means that you need to run the PowerShell script that enables early updates in ConfigMgr to be able to play with this. So I recommend that you do this in your lab only, and in this case, lab is not production. I recommend waiting a month or two until the first hotfix comes out and it's generally available, because that usually means that they have found a few things and fixed them. But for lab environment, I think it's perfectly okay to start to play around with it. And that was exactly what I did last night. Ran that installer, and not that one, that was the script I was working on. But here I have a 2309 server installed. And in addition to the what's new in it, because there were a good chunk of new features in it. First of all, when you install it, you need to install an updated SQL driver. You would think that this website would include a link to such SQL driver, but I could not find it on this website. However, when I ran the installer, sure enough, it told me that excuse me, you failed the prereq check, you need this drive. And that one contained a link to the installer. So if you go borrow that link and go download, you will see that it will download this this file here, which is the SQL driver. So once I installed that one, the installer went through just fine. And we will share that link also as usual here. Other cool things in this release was that you can schedule scripts to run that you have in your script repository. So that's a nice touch. That was possible to do before because you can have a scheduled task running a PowerShell script that ran a run script, also PowerShell. But now there is official built into ConfigMgr, which is nice. This one I haven't played around with at all. I don't know what that one does. New maintenance task to delete old messages or execution messages. So you can also set it up through PowerShell. Some changes to the update orchestrator. And now you can, in client settings, you can enable the native reboot experience. So if you don't want to have the ConfigMgr client, you can enable this for this feature also, which is nice. You can copy maintenance windows through PowerShell in between different collections if you want. And this was actually a big one. We had a few of our customers wanting this feature for a good while, where you can select which management point you would like a DP to connect to. Because by default, it's using whatever the DP happened to be using. That might not be the ideal candidate for some scenarios. It could be several minutes just to contact one if you have a really slow WAN link and you're going to the remote or to the wrong management point. So it's nice to be able to specify that now. This one, for those of you using Provision TS, Autopilot, etc., you can now configure BitLocker that way and also escrow those keys to the ConfigMgr database. So that is nice. And some changes regarding the edition upgrade in Config Manager. And I like how they have a screenshot here from Server 2012 R2. I recognize the coloring around the window because, as most of you know, October is the last month for 2012 R2. There will be no more updates for this operating system. So if you haven't upgraded, you should have, but now is like really the time.
As of yesterday, I believe.
Yep. Patch Tuesday yesterday. A new dashboard for readiness to prepare for Windows 11 upgrades or an updated dashboard. So that's nice, as well as some cloud management gateway capabilities when you create and install that role. Then, of course, it's more interesting to look in and see what they don't tell you about. So, for example, in SQL, you can use a bit of SQL to list available functions. And it will tell you that in 2309, you have 1565 of them. If I would go over to almost identically configured 2303 release and run the same query, I only have 1510. So obviously there is a difference here. Now, some of these are depending on collections and whatnot, so that is fair and fair. But I can borrow this list here and bring it over to, let me close this one and open up Excel fresh. So paste this one here. So this was my 2303. The other one here was my 2309. And paste that in, select these, and go and do a conditional formatting to find cells that are of the same color. And that will, of course, show me the ones that are different in between the different versions. But Excel is great, but PowerShell is not too bad either. So you can go to a folder where you have saved out this output into two text files. You can use a little bit of compare in PowerShell to compare these two text files to each other. And it will show you the names straight out of the bat here that are in 2309 only. These up here are just from my collection, so I don't interested in those. But what I am interested in some of the new validation functions they added in. This one was causing some grief in the early testing of 2309. I was talking to a customer that had a benefit of stumbling across that issue. So they removed the calls for that, but it's still in the product. So you can use this to ask, this is a stored procedure you can use to ask, okay, I have a function, what else is using this function? So I can select this line and the validate IP address. I can see it's being used in this particular function that is used to get boundary groups. And this one is used for absolutely nothing. But it used to be used. And I will show you why it's not entirely ideal. Here is code they added in. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm betting this is to prevent SQL injection type attacks for security reasons, because they're looking for strings here to validate. And the strings they're looking for is SP underscore. Now, underscore in SQL is a wildcard. So whatever you're using this validation for, you better not have SP or XP in that name, because that's going to be flagged. So we'll see what they do with this over time, but I thought it was a fun fact to stumble across. Bit nerdy perhaps, but yeah.
No, that is awesome. That's like 500 level right there. That is great stuff.
No, this is the beginner's module, so no.
This is, yeah, if you've never seen SQL before, you start out with this, and
there we are. Then I stumbled across a post from Peter that I liked around printer mapping through scripting on cloud managed Windows devices. So it was a good post. We will share that one. And of course, there was a, not very surprisingly, an update for Windows 11 yesterday, like everything else. And Arya put together a 4-minute video explaining what that brought for changes in Windows 11. And I figured I would just jump to one of the sections in it. 122 here. So these are some of the changes and fixes they did in that release. And of course, you can head and install it and see for yourself for this. This one also contained the same code that was in the September 26 update that was released in between the patch Tuesdays. And as always, our friend over at PatchMyPC, or friends over at PatchMyPC, they have updated their Patch Tuesday blog with release notes for the October patches. That was all I had in terms of news.
And like you said to me, that's all. That's great stuff.
Yeah. All right. What questions do we have?
All right. We do have a comment before I get to the questions here. Mace Windu may have been opposed to Anakin Skywalker becoming a Jedi Master, but he sure isn't opposed to a healthy Windows migration and update policy. That's true. I did hear that about him.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And before I get to his question here, we have a comment from John over on YouTube. The PatchMyPC catalog has the SQL ODBC drivers in it to make those prereqs trivial. And he did specify that was not a paid advertisement. And I agree. PatchMyPC is just that awesome.
That happened to be great. That's their policy.
Exactly. So great comment, John. Thank you for that. So John also did have a question here. Are there any gotchas if I install OneDrive and Office apps to a Windows server for a VDI type situation?
I don't know about OneDrive, but Office is commonly installed in VDI solutions. And back in the days where regular terminal servers were a big thing, to have our Office running on those.
If you are using M365 apps, the only thing I can think of is look at the shared license activation or device-based activation. You'll probably want to utilize those in a VDI situation. But that's the only thing that really comes to mind off the top of my head.
All right.
All right. And then Jamie's got a question here on YouTube. Are you aware of any SCCM WMI class that has a method to create a CM schedule locally, client side, rather than server side maintenance window?
No, nothing that comes to mind on the top of my head. It's not something I have done, at least. Oh, sorry, haven't seen that.
Oh, same. All right. It looks like Matt's got a question here on YouTube. I updated the SCCM console in hotfix that's changing the client version, but is that going to change the CCM setup .exe file as well? Because I still have the same version. So where can I find the new version on the server after the update?
So if let me go back to my server. Depending on your configuration in ConfigMgr, and this is the hierarchy here. So if I go to sites and check my hierarchy settings, if you have your system like I have mine, where we always update to the latest client straight out of the bat, that client will be in the installation folder under clients. So if I go here to my installation folder, that would be the version, and you can see this one was updated fairly recently. If you don't have production, they're going to be staged in the pilot package. So either this one here or this one here. Oh, that was the staging. Never mind. This one here for the upgrade client. So yeah, depends on your setting. And you can check this by going to your dashboard and basically head over to it will tell you right away on how you're doing. So you can see that this one bumped up the client version to 9120 when I upgraded to 2309. Not all hotfix historically updates the clients, but 99 out of 100 will. So pretty much every time you update a ConfigMgr server for something, it does update the client as well. Yep.
All right. Good stuff. I did have, while you were talking about that, Johan, would you mind sharing my screen for a second if you're all done?
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to.
So for John, you had the question about installing Office on a VDI scenario. You may very well have come across this document already, but I did pull this up from some old notes from a while back. Installing M365 apps on RDS or shared virtual machine. And it does have the shared computer licensing as one of the recommendations, and there's maybe some other recommendations in here as well. So I just wanted to call this out real quick. I'm going to add this to our links, make sure this gets posted for this evening, since I found some official doc on that. Hopefully that helps if you haven't seen it yet. All right. Got another question here. Oh, do you have something, Johan?
No, I just saw the update regarding the security settings you were talking about earlier. Got a comment coming in here on YouTube saying that if you use the SID for the group and a custom CSP, you can set permissions that way.
Yeah, so you can add that. You can add the SID to a local group, and then maybe set that local group's permissions on the shared folder. That's very clever. If that were, I have not tried that yet.
Well, no, because if that's the case, then you probably can use account protection as well, that feature, to add folks to that group. Possibly. Well, interesting. Since you sounds like you got some more testing to do.
Yes, I do. All right. I have noted my homework.
Very well.
I'll be looking into that. Excellent. So let's see. Another question here on YouTube. What can organizations do on their endpoints to enable a smooth or smoother transition towards passwordless? I know of Windows Hello for Business, and setting up Cloud Trust, Cloud Kerberos Trust. But any other suggestions?
I have not worked in any projects that has done that configuration, so I don't know. I wouldn't say I haven't done it yet, but I haven't.
Yeah, sort of same. I haven't worked with anyone that is really heading towards passwordless yet. But the two things you mentioned there are probably the things that I can think of that are going to make it the easiest, especially if you are in a hybrid environment, a hybrid Azure AD joined or Entra joined environment. That Cloud Trust, from what I understand, makes things significantly easier by removing the requirement for like a full-blown PKI infrastructure and things like that. So from what I do know, it sounds like you're already on the right path, at least, to make those things a little bit easier.
All right.
All right. So let's see here. Matt had a follow-up about CCM setup.exe. What about CCM setup.exe version NT, the client version?
I mean, you should see a date change of it. So let me check my machine real quick before I share the screen. No, it is updated with the version. So here. So I showed you this one here. This is my production client version. And if I go to CCM setup file and go to details of that one, it does show that same version. If I go over to because the question was around the 23 environment, this one here is a 23 environment that has, I believe, the hotfix installed. I have to double check that one real quick. Well, I wanted to update my console. So congratulations, you'll have to watch me do that.
Or attempt to.
Attempt to, yeah. No, I've seen this before. It's probably some of my consoles, but I don't need a console to check the version. So get away. Here. This one should also reflect the version that I have in the console for this machine on the client. There might be a pending reboot on this box. See, I have a script that I use to check for pending reboots. Sure enough, there is a pending reboot, but I know a guy who can reboot a server.
The best.
See if that one will convince it to be able to install the console. It is, after all, Patch Tuesday, so
It's a lot of patching going on in your labs this week.
yeah, I was a little bit concerned. I need to run a dedupe job because I'm out of disk space on this one here. Where I have most of my clients. Yeah.
Oh, I know what you'll be doing tonight.
Yeah. I was playing around. I bought some of these 4 terabyte
nice.
Western Digital drives.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3. 2 have failed me so far, so I'm not really impressed. But I did notice that Samsung released their 4 terabytes just recently, so you can get a Samsung 990 NVMe 4 terabyte for roughly $300, something like that. That might be a good Christmas present for yourself.
That's not bad. I nearly texted you about that this morning because I saw that it was on sale. I didn't want to get you in trouble, though, buying another 4 terabyte drive.
Yep, I hear you. Anyhow, let's see if site server decided to come back here. So I can install the console. What we're trying to do here is do a version check of the client. See if it likes that one better. I've seen the console installs fail so many times because of a pending reboot, so I figured I'll try that first.
KISS, right?
Yeah. And for those of you wanting that script that I ran, we have it up on GitHub here where we post most of our findings, Andrew and I. Apparently you need to spell research somewhat correctly. Here, scripts, test dash something.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, pending reboot, that's the one. So that script you can steal with pride. All right, back here, no console installed. Life is good. Check the hierarchy settings on this one. This one is also done for production. This one does show this is the version of the site. If I go to monitoring, we have that version showing up on the client. Dang it, I did not mean to do that. I meant to do this. So it shows that version, but it has a sub version here on the client. That one I don't think show up on the CCM setup exe file. You can see that real quick. Maybe not. Oh, it still shows as that version, so the stub have not changed there. I don't think we have any versioning on these guys. Possibly the client MSI. Nope. No. So whatever you see in the console there is what's the real version is. And it did update. Oh, it's currently updating some of my clients, but you can always go to a client directly and simply check the version number, whatever that one has. So this is the older one. It's being upgraded now to the new version. It's pretty aggressive in upgrading. Just because you have it configured to do it every 7 days, like I have here, or even more, what I found is that it will upgrade like 80-90% of those devices within like a 2-day period. It's pretty quick to do that. But yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Awesome. I love demos like that because that's, oftentimes these days, well, I guess maybe I'm speaking for myself, this is one of those things that just works. You upgrade your site and all of a sudden your clients, as you said, over the next several days get updated. But when you want to do some actual verification, those are some great tips on verifying those things. Great stuff.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Let's see here. Jamie had a follow-up comment here, I think on the Windows Hello for Business. Did notice if you have lockdown policies, the pop-up to set up Windows Hello can be bypassed via the notification pop-up bar, even if your policies show locked down. So, good observation. Thanks for sharing that, Jamie. Also, a follow-up, not a follow-up, a question from Jamie. Do you ever think CCM will be updated fully rather than having MSP required in the client update folder?
Not quite following that question. What it's referring to whatever was in here before. Interesting.
You know a guy that can get you access to that folder?
I can try. Apparently not. Oh, interesting. Ah. So that is the patch file. Copy that somewhere else.
You beat me to it. I was able to just browse right into that directory, oddly.
This one does not have any versioning info here either. But this version here should match the 9670. Was that the version? Yeah, that matches that version. Might be possible to snatch it from the MSP itself, maybe with the Orca or something, and see the version. So they are still using patching mechanisms like in the old days you had. And I'm talking like SMS early ConfigMgr days. You have like update patching folders that you can apply when you install the client. You might remember that. Yeah, a little bit of research. Never hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm. Quite a bit going on today.
Yep. Anything else?
Just an update from a comment from Jamie. The 530 Seagate 4 terabyte is great with higher endurance as well. So another 4
Awesome.
terabyte NVMe recommendation.
Thank you for that tip.
I haven't used any of their SSDs, but I did just grab some of their 14 terabyte spinning disks, which have been
For
good
your
so
NAS,
far.
Synology, yeah. I
They're,
wonder if you can snatch the... Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say those are a little bit louder, it seems, is a common situation when you get up 12, 14 plus terabyte, which was a concerning at first until I discovered that that's just normal for these larger hard drives these days. But
I wonder if you can use this to get... No, that didn't help much. That was worth a try, though.
yep. Yeah. I've got to think that
I've
is
learned
not
that this
version
is
0.
it's particularly useful to get info out of MSI files
Mm-hmm.
when needed.
Interesting.
But that did not help much. All right. What else?
I think we're all caught up on questions at the moment.
Yay. But we still have a whopping 7 minutes. So
Yeah.
if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Great questions today, though, as always, and good conversation and happening in the chat. You know, that always makes us happy.
Yeah. That is true. Got a tip there of loading the higher MSP in Orca and see if get more information about the update. That is a good tip.
Orca, that's a name that I haven't heard in a long time.
It's still useful.
Oh, absolutely.
Still have that installer lying around.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if that could be any use.
Might have that info buried somewhere.
I don't know. Heck yeah. Let me, where did my screen go? Here's my screen. So this was the MSP file that I copied out of the client installation folder earlier. And I just installed Orca. It's just a tiny MSI. Should show up here somewhere, Orca. So, and then you can right click a file and do an edit with Orca. And that one will give you the version data here.
Oh, awesome.
File. So, yeah, great tip. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. Nice one, Jamie. This is a good question. Johan, what headphones are you using?
These guys are Sennheiser's M660, I believe. Just open up my... Yeah, that should be 660s. Maybe they say on them. Yep, MB660. But I'm not using the microphone in them because I have a microphone up here that you cannot see. But it's a Rode shotgun microphone that is better than this microphone.
Well, they seem to have treated you well.
Yeah, they this is my second pair. The first pair just died after 3 months for whatever reason. But I got a new pair from replacement, and these have been with me for almost 2 years now. No problem at all.
Awesome.
I got a question coming in on YouTube regarding I have no idea what that even is. If we know how to code Okami, no. The first time I've ever heard that word in my life, so nope, I do not know how to code that one. Apparently is a general purpose industrial strength programming language. All right, I learned something new today. But unfortunately, we don't. At least I don't. Maybe Andrew does. You have a hidden talent that you haven't told me about.
No, not in any hidden programming talents. It does look like it's camel, and I'm only saying that because it looks like the logo is a camel.
It could be. I could say it wrong. Okay. Mick just chimed in and chat here, said it's a French programming language, very, very popular. And it is an L in the end. It's not an I. It's the chat that caused my confusion there. Yeah. So.
And I cheated and found the logo, so.
Surprised that you guys don't know it. Yeah, congratulations. You stumped us.
Interesting.
All right. Anything else? Last minute now.
Looks like we did have a last minute question come in. Quick question about on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I have a quick question about hybrid join, which we try to avoid. Does this method use group policy and also Intune policy? We are using this as an intermediary step to get OneDrive files automatically to the cloud before we F12 the machine and Azure AD join them.
I'm not quite following.
So basically, when we have a hybrid join device, can we use group policies and Intune policies?
Yes, as long as the machines are hybrid join, you can definitely do that. But they will fight if they configure the same things on the devices. And it's very unpredictable who will win if that's the case. Even though there are policies that can control that, who will win, that is on a per policy basis. And we have seen some really, really strange results. So the recommendation is to do one or the other. Not both. But I can understand it. A transition is hard to completely flip over, but it's easier that way.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Well, that's all we have.
We made it.
Yes, we did.
Everyone, thank you so much for all the comments and great questions. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one.
Thank you. Bye.